This is the only sanctuary the Rohingya have. But even here in Bangladesh, their status is unclear. Top government officials say those fleeing violence in Myanmar are welcome for the time being. But they also insist the Rohingya must return to Myanmar as soon as possible and have refused to call them refugees. That's at odds with the UN.
The stories that we have heard of the violence are horrifying, are devastating. And what I know is that they are more than enough to justify us defining these people as refugees and therefore deserving of international protection.
But the UN insists that it's a difficult situation for Bangladesh.
Bangladeshis have been very generous, but individuals cannot address this need. Even the Bangladeshi government cannot address this need. So we need money from the world community.
And leading that call is Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina Wajid. Whether it's consoling Rohingya in camps along the border with Myanmar or calling for more aid and an end to the violence there, it's Sheikh Hasina who's championing the cause of the Rohingya, like here at the UN.
Rohingya সমস্যার স্থায়ী সমাধানে দ্রুত কার্যকর উদ্যোগ গ্রহণের জন্য আমি জাতিসংঘ এবং আন্তর্জাতিক সম্প্রদায়কে আহ্বান জানাচ্ছি। এ প্রসঙ্গে আমি কিছু সুনির্দিষ্ট প্রস্তাব পেশ করছি। প্রথমত, অনতিবিলম্বে এবং চিরতরে মিয়ানমারের সহিংসতা ও জাতিগত নিধন নিঃশর্তে বন্ধ করা। চতুর্থত, রাখাইন রাজ্য হতে জোরপূর্বক বিতাড়িত সকল রোহিঙ্গাকে মিয়ানমারে তার নিজ ঘরবাড়িতে প্রত্যাবর্তন ও পুনর্বাসন নিশ্চিত করা।
Myanmar's foreign minister says his country has now agreed to repatriate the displaced, even as refugees stream across the border. It's a proposal many Rohingya see as insincere and again raises questions about Bangladesh's ability to bear their burden. Shoaib Hassan, the Newsmakers.
And I'm joined now from Dhaka by Abdul Rashid. He is a retired Major General of Bangladesh's army who leads the Institute of Conflict Law and Development Studies. From Frankfurt, we have Neysan Win, who's a Rohingya activist and blogger. And joining us from Geneva is Dunya Aslam Khan. She's a communications officer for the UNHCR. Thanks all so much for joining us. Let me just begin with that last line in the report you just heard. Myanmar authorities now say they're looking to repatriate hundreds of thousands of Rohingya refugees. Do you see first, Abdur Rashid, that statement as sincere?
In fact, there is a lot of doubt because the mechanism has not been worked out. They did put some condition that they must have some documents of their residency in Myanmar. As we see the conditions of the refugees, they have come and saved their life. Their plight was very serious. So how could they produce all those documents? That's a question need to be solved. I'm sure that a joint working group is supposed to be formed and they will find out some modalities. But still, we see even yesterday about 5,000 refugees have come. Villages are still burning. So in that case, their sincerity is always questionable.
It is in question as well because Rohingyas now ask what they go back to. But still, on that point, Dunya Aslam Khan, do you expect Myanmar to eventually have to make this effort to repatriate these refugees? And will they leave the verification of their refugee status up to either Bangladesh or the international community?
Right now, we are talking about longer-term solutions, which means whether or not refugees can return to Myanmar. But we are in a situation, and you have heard Filippo Grandi and Antonio Guterres both saying that this is the biggest refugee emergency of recent times. 500,000 people displaced in a month's time. So we need to look at the immediate, midterm, and then long-term planning. Immediately, we need to provide them life-saving assistance and support because refugees outflow or the influx has not stopped yet. We are still receiving reports of more people. Yes, I mean, the number has dropped down, but we still are receiving reports of more people crossing the border and taking refuge and safety in Bangladesh. But for repatriation, UNHCR stance is really clear because we are a UN mandated refugee agency, and across the globe we have huge programs of voluntary repatriation which we have been facilitating. For example, the one we are facilitating in Pakistan and Iran has been on since 2002 for Afghan refugees. So for us, the basic principle of return is all the returns should be voluntary, in safety and dignity, and above all, people should be given the choice to make an informed decision about when and where are they returning. If the prospect of their reintegration back home are bleak, the question is, are we really talking about solutions? Because taking refugees from one displacement category into another displacement is not really a solution. The solution is all the conditions should be put in place for successful reintegration of refugees back in Rakhine State.
Okay, Ne San Win, I'm just going to first ask you as well, if you see the latest statement from the Foreign Minister of Myanmar as sincere, do you expect Myanmar to actually repatriate the refugees it now says it will?
There are about 400,000 refugees in Bangladesh since 1991. They have made agreement in 1993 that those people will be repatriated, but you know, these people are still in Bangladesh. So recently, Burmese minister visited Dhaka to make an agreement just to ease the international tension. And also, those people recently fled to Bangladesh. This 500,000 people, they have lost their houses, their property, and also all the documentation. And the Burmese government has all the record of their documentation. I am not sure whether the Burmese government will issue them their copy, because you know, since 1992 they have launched this Nasaka operation, and they have conducted at least 46 times population census in every village. They have the photo of each family and also the copy of the household registration and also the copy of the registration card. So I am not sure the government will issue them back, and also the government can say that, you know, these people are not fled from our country. So there will be, the government has to be honest if they really want to repatriate all those people.
Let's assume, just for this instance, that the Myanmarese government is sincere in this pledge and that they allow either the United Nations or Bangladesh to verify the refugee status of hundreds of thousands of Rohingya. What would you insist be established in Myanmar to make it safe for the Rohingya people to actually go back and remain protected in their home state?
We demand a safe zone because, you know, these people are normally, they are persecuting every day. Like, you know, there is no day without torture, harassment, arrest, and the sexual abuse. I have been documenting all these things past 16 years. So they have to assure that these people will not be persecuted again, and they will be, you know, protected by the law, because, you know, the law is just protecting the Buddhist people. There is no law for this Rohingya Muslim at all, you know. So, and also their original places, they have to go back to their original places, because since 2012, the former president Thein Sein is planning to put all those people into the concentration camp. The people, about 160,000 in Sittwe, are in the concentration camp for more than 5 years now.
Okay. Abdul Rashid, how likely do you think it is that safe zones could even be established in Myanmar to protect those refugees that may be repatriated?
Yeah, that's right. That's a question of Bangladesh, and Bangladesh has submitted a proposal in this line. That is because Bangladesh has accommodated 500,000 new refugees and 500,000 old refugees. It's a big number. So they thought it's a long-term process. As somebody is thinking that it cannot be solved in overnight. So these people can be taken back in their territory under the UN supervision and can be sheltered over there and then find the political process and given their rights. This is one. But at this moment, the most important issues we cannot neglect. That is one, the implementation of Kofi Annan's report, because that report contains giving some rights like citizenship and other rights, removing the restrictions. So that should be done. So we are focusing on that point one. Second thing, yes, world cannot ignore the crime against the humanity which has been done by their military. So that cannot be ignored. So that has to be brought into justice in some way or others.
And
so these issues we have to solve together, not in isolation, one only sending them back and putting them in a confinement or concentration camp. That will not solve the problem. And Bangladesh is very focused. So this time, a different look has been taken to solve this problem.
Right. And the United States has already, it must be noted, demanded that there is prosecution of Myanmar's military who may have committed these human rights abuses against the Rohingya. But I want to turn back to this issue of safe zones. And let me ask Dunya Aslam Khan, in order to establish those safe zones, it's most likely that UN troops will have to be on the ground to make sure that these refugees and repatriated refugees are fully protected in Rakhine State. To what lengths do you think the UN would be willing to go to genuinely protect them?
Well, the thing is, we have heard about the safe zone, the mention of safe zone from different actors, from the government of Bangladesh, from here, there, but we cannot really comment on something which is still, on proposals which is still lacking clarity and details. We don't know by safe zone what exactly is it meant, safe zone in Myanmar, safe zone in Bangladesh. But based on the historical perspective of safe zone, we have seldom seen any safe zone safe. Because until and unless the international humanitarian law safeguards are put in place to ensure that the safety and security of civilians is guaranteed, no zone is really a safe zone. People should be given the right of free movement. The safe zone should not be used as an excuse for border control or to restrict people's free movement. So we need more clarity before really talking about the safe zone and the details. What exactly do we mean by safe zones?
Nesan Win, I'm going to assume that isn't the language you want to hear from the UN. After so much experience in failed safe zone efforts, Srebrenica, for example, would you expect the UN to have a better plan than that? Because it's been years in the making, this Rohingya refugee crisis, that the UN has been aware of these hundreds of thousands of people that will need to return and want to return home.
There is no guarantee that these people will not be persecuted again, because, this is not just simply violence broke out in last August. We have been suffering since 1978. It is already 39 years now. They have been cleansing the population since 1978. This is the third wave. In 1978, more than 270,000. Again in 1991, more than 250,000. Again now 500,000. So all the time, the UN is saying these people should be repatriated, but there is no protection for these people. So this time, the UN need to take serious action and also need to study the root cause of this problem, how our citizenship were taken away since 1974. So we want the permanent solution, not just these people repatriated and again they suffer, and again there will be the violence. The remaining all the people also will be fled again. So we don't want this to repeat again and again. So UN must use the strongest term. This is completely genocide we are facing since since 1978. So we have to, the UN and the international community has to find the permanent solution. We are human, you know, these people are human. They have no freedom of movement. They have nothing, you know, they cannot access for the food.
Okay.
Just, you know, while before I am talking, the villages are burning, the people are fleeing.
Okay.
So this has to be stopped, you know, by any means.
We know this. And I mean, Abdul Rashid, then, in your opinion, has the UN failed to be proactive in years past now? Has it failed to protect these people when they knew they were in danger?
A Myanmar threat is something different than Srebrenica. That this is a valid state still. It is not a failed state. Here the military, who has been under, probably not under political control, are doing this genocide. Now, if the political control of the military can be established in Myanmar, I'm sure the guarantee could be established more. So in this case, we have to, there are many ways that one can just find it out. And it is better that we have to protect them. And for such protection, even can go far extent, even deployment of UN forces.
Okay. Dunia Aslam Khan, let me ask you about an issue that many people have complained about, and that is the hypocrisy here in some of the leadership in neighboring states now. The Rohingya have faced persecution in Myanmar for decades, yet every time a neighboring country was faced with their plight, the Rohingya civilians were actually rejected, and not gently so. We saw Malaysia send boatloads of refugees back. We saw Bangladesh say not long ago that this was not their problem, and then violently try to stop them when they wanted to cross the border initially from Myanmar into Bangladesh. Now it seems their leadership has stepped up. But is this a continual problem whereby no one will take responsibility, no one will do the right thing by humanity until the international spotlight is firmly set on an issue?
This is a very important question at a time when we are seeing unprecedented number of people being displaced globally. We are talking about 65 million people forcefully uprooted and the highest number of displaced people since World War II. But unfortunately, as the numbers grow high, we have seen xenophobia, feeling of xenophobia, you know, the anti-refugee sentiment, anti-migrant sentiment on rise at the same time. But what we need is, I mean, you spoke about Bangladesh, but I must acknowledge that during this emergency, the first respondent to the needs of Rohingya refugees were the government and people of Bangladesh. Ordinary people were trucking aid, clothes, hot meal, and distributing to the people. But the scale of displacement is high, is huge. One country alone cannot bear the burden of so many refugees. 80% of the global displaced population is currently hosted by developing countries like Pakistan, like Iran, like Lebanon, like Jordan. Turkey is relatively well off, but Turkey is the highest. Turkey has the highest number of refugees currently, which the country is hosting. So what we need is, and similar is the case with Bangladesh. Bangladesh is a country of 160 million population, the mostly densely populated country, is now hosting around 600 to 800,000 Rohingya refugees. 500,000 from this emergency and others during the previous waves of violence in Rakhine. So what we need is more regional solidarity and more support for the government and people who are hosting refugees to continue in order to continue or to keep the momentum of this support on. It's really important for international community to look into the needs of host communities as well as refugee communities. Okay. In any country like Bangladesh or Pakistan or Iran, we have seen that the countries have not strong economies, but they are providing security, safety, shelter to refugees. So it's important to continue supporting the host communities.
Neysan Luwin, I can see you agree, but I want to ask you personally how optimistic you are about the action that the international community can actually take when you have countries as powerful as China, Russia, and India backing the military action of Myanmar?
Yeah, traditionally, China is supporting the Burmese military since 1962. So as of now, also they are standing with the Burmese military. And the Russia also, they are mostly interested on selling the weapon to the Burmese military, and also they are training the Burmese military. So that is the reason they are taking side with the Burmese military. But like India, you know, some of the people, the public is supporting us. There are also anti-Muslim media are talking against the Rohingya people, like, you know, they have made the hashtag Rohingya terror expose, you know, fund the Burmese government, make the propaganda that, you know, Hindu were killed by the Assad militant. So actually this was not by the Assad, those were killed by the Burmese military and the Rakhine extremists. They are making the propaganda. Like, you know, I have my blog, Facebook page. This is banned by the Indian cyber. You know, in India, the people cannot access. I have posted the analysis on my blog about this Hindu killing. So the Indian government is at the Burmese side, but, you know, still there are a lot of countries, they are supporting our cause. I think there should be, like, you know, the US is calling for the global arms embargo. Every country should support this. And also there is Maldives, you know, they have held the trade ties. So, and also the other country, they can downgrade the diplomatic relation, you know, because what I really want, you know, for the permanent solution, all the international community must strongly pressure the Burmese government to stop this violence and restore the citizenship right of the Rohingya people.
Okay, Nason Win. I will give you the last word. I'd like to thank all three of our panelists, Abdul Rashid, Nason Win, and Dunya Aslam Khan, so much for joining us on this edition of the Newsmakers.